All right, let's start talking about coaches because we know we want to start talking about coaches. So let's get into this one, folks. Well, welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs channel. My name is Greg, and if you're new here, this channel is dedicated to the Washington Commanders. So if you're down with that, make sure you have subscribed to the channel. And when you do, also make sure you have clicked that notification bell so you will never miss another video release. So I'm going to tell you right now, folks, most of us are going to either be up for Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, or probably Jim Harbaugh. It seems like those three are the leading candidates, that those names keep popping up more than anybody else's names as far as the lead candidates for the next head coaching position for the Washington Commanders. It's probably fair to say that the idea of Johnson and Slowick, for instance, those two guys, what we like is the youth, right? The youth and the hope that they're going to be the next Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel or somebody like that. These guys who are young guys who are possibly going to be with the franchise for the next 10, 20 years. That is our hope, because we have been wanting coaches, switching coaches for the last, 20, 30 years, and we want to get off that merry-go-round. Others like the idea of Jim Harbaugh because of his prior success in the NFL and, of course, his success in college football as well. And, of course, surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly enough, most people really don't want Bill Belichick. Because, well, for one thing, his age, he's 71 years old, and because a lot of us feel that most of his accomplishments are due to Tom Brady. Because what has he really accomplished outside of Tom Brady? But, there are also some other interesting names in this head coaching candidate list that other than those guys. Some names that might be popping up that are not official yet, like Mike Vrabel, for instance. Vrabel, while Tennessee has struggled this year, Mike may be out at the end of the season. But at one time, Mike Vrabel was the coach of the year, and he did take the Tennessee Titans all the way to the AFC Championship game. I think it was in 2019. And so he has the tools. He has the tools, and I like him. I like his approach to the game. Another guy I'm thinking about, and I know some may roll their eyes, but you got to think about it, maybe give him another shot, is Dan Quinn. Now, I know that when we think about Dan Quinn, we think about the total collapse in the Super Bowl, the 24-3 at one point, and then they lose. But he did take the Atlanta Falcons to a Super Bowl, and he's got the Dallas Cowboys defense playing excellent football. He is an outstanding defensive coordinator, and I thought that he was a pretty decent head coach. He has to be a good head coach to take a team to a Super Bowl. Of course, that was also the same argument we had for Ron Rivera, so touche on that one. And then, of course, there's Brian Flores, who was coaching Miami for a little bit. But he's now kind of similar to Dan Quinn. He's the defensive coordinator in Minnesota, and Minnesota right now having a pretty stout defense as well. So, those are names like that. And then you got the other names. You got, of course, our own Eric Bieniemy, Mike McDonald, and Brian Johnson. Not Ben Johnson, but Brian Johnson. And honestly, I guess it all comes down to what type of head coach that we're looking for. Are we looking for an offensive-minded head coach or a defensive-minded head coach? Certainly, we have had our hand at defensive-minded head coach with Ron Rivera. And so you feel like, well, now I want an offensive-minded head coach. And, because it seems like that's what we have had winning the Super Bowls in the last few years. And, it feels like that more times than not, those are the coaches that win the Super Bowls are the offensive-minded head coaches. I mean, yeah, you can look at Mike Ditka and guys like that, but, he only won one Super Bowl. You can think off of very quickly offensive-minded head coaches that have won multiple Super Bowls. Joe Gibbs, for instance. Bill Walsh. Guys like that. So, of course, then everyone else will say, well, Bill Belichick was a defensive-minded head coach and won multiple Super Bowls. Yeah, but then again, he had Tom Brady. So, really, it makes you wonder. I mean, of course, we're tired of the old retreads. And, we've tried that. Heck, we even tried Jim Zorn. And in the beginning, we thought that Jim Zorn was going to be some sort of savant. Like, I remember the Redskins started off, I think they were like 6-2 at one point under Jim Zorn. And I'm like, whoa, Zorn really came out of nowhere. And then, of course, everything kind of fell apart. But meanwhile, we let some of the most successful coaches in the NFL right now, or at least coaches that are having some sort of success, leave. You think Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin O'Donnell, Mike McDaniel. We knew that we had these guys, and some of these guys were all on the team, we're all on the payroll all at once. And we let them go. It just shows you the type of, I guess, I don't know, the evaluations of coaches and whoever was in charge of evaluations at that time. If it was, well, I'm not going to get into it anyway. Excuse me. So, all right, let's get down to brass tacks, okay? Who do I think? Now, of course, you didn't ask me for my opinion, but since I have the mic and I have the video, I'm going to give you my opinion. That's why you tuned in, right? That's why you love me, right? Okay, well, my first option, of course, I'm going with everybody else. I'm going with Ben Johnson, because he has had a lot of success as an offensive coordinator. I want to go offensive-minded. I like Ben Johnson. I like his youth. I like the fact that I feel like he knows what he's doing. He seems like he's a guy that's getting his game plan together as far as what he's going to do as a head coach. I think he already knows that he is going to be a head coach, and I'm sure he's probably already gathering his staff. He's probably already got in mind who his coordinators and his position coaches are going to be. He's already told teams, the monetary terms of what it's going to take, which to me is a little turn off, but, so be it. He better live up to it is all I can say. But that is my first choice. That's a lot of people's first choices. After that, honestly, I'd probably look at Slowick, Bobby Slowick. He comes from a coaching family, so he's a junior, but he could be one of those up and coming guys, just kind of like a Mike McDaniel type of guy. He comes from that Shanahan coaching tree, which I love. I love the Shanahan offense. When Mike Shanahan was in Washington, I loved that offense. Although he did, kind of tailor it to RG3, so you added more, RPO into it. But I like although I do kind of like the smash up type of run. I like the stretch runs that he had as well. I really felt that they were very effective. But I love that type of West Coast sort of Shanahan offense. So I would love to see that in Washington again, honestly. Other than that, honestly, I would kind of like to see Jim Harbaugh, because Jim Harbaugh, and he's my third choice. Jim Harbaugh, I think, would be well. Let's put it to you this way: Jim Harbaugh, he didn't leave the NFL on a down note. I mean, he was very successful in the NFL. He just decided to jump into college. So Harbaugh, I mean, it's kind of like a Pete Carroll in a way. Pete Carroll, he was coaching in the NFL, and Pete Carroll was, I mean, he wasn't like unsuccessful coaching in the NFL, but he made the leap into college and was very successful in college. Came back into the NFL, has been very successful in the NFL, and honestly, I think that Jim Harbaugh will be the same way. I think Jim Harbaugh will be a very successful head coach once again in the NFL. And I think any team, any franchise will be very happy and very lucky to have Jim Harbaugh. So I would love to have Jim Harbaugh. Honestly, I would probably pick him over Salt just because of, and honestly, I don't know, maybe I would pick him over Ben just because of the experience. And overall, honestly, I think that when it comes to Josh Harris, I've heard rumblings about Josh Harris would like to have someone who's had experience. And Jim Harbaugh seems to fit that mold because Jim Harbaugh has had experience in coaching in the NFL. He's had success in the NFL. He's taken a team to a Super Bowl. And so, I mean, he has what it takes. So now he's older than some of the other candidates that I would like to have. So you're looking at, how long does he stay with the team? But then again, a coach can obviously coach well up into their 70s. I mean, again, Bill Belichick, he's 71. Okay, he's not well up into his 70s, but he's crossed the 70 threshold and he's still coaching, and seems like he still wants to coach, regardless of what happens in New England. So, I mean, you still would have somebody like Jim Harbaugh, assuming that he would be successful for at least another decade or so. That's pretty good. For our track record of head coaches, that's really good. So, honestly, to me, the final two candidates would come down to Jim Harbaugh and Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, I would hope that it's another Joe Gibbs situation. Would be nice. I think we deserve it. And Jim Harbaugh certainly would be more the proven commodity to come in. Bill Belichick, again, I think Bill Belichick, the biggest issue other than his age is the fact that I think he's going to require too much power over the front office, over player personnel and all that. And I don't believe that, according to what Josh Harris wants, he wants to tailor the franchise after the Ravens franchise. And that means that the head coach does not have that power. So I don't see them looking at Bill Belichick. I know you've heard rumors about Bill Belichick being one of the leading candidates. I don't think that's going to happen, folks. So, and then finally, Eric Bieniemy. There's still some people out there that are like, what about Eric Bieniemy? Honestly, what would be good about Eric Bieniemy is the continuity on offense. Continuing to develop guys, regardless of if Sam Howell is starting next year or not. He's going to be on the team, so you do continue to develop Sam Howell, regardless as if he's starting. So that is a positive to having Eric Bieniemy as the head coach. He's there. He continues continuity on the offense. And so, year two is always, hopefully you would think, would be a step ahead. And he continues to, install more of what he was bringing to Washington. But then again, the downfall is he's also taking more responsibility. So how much of time does he have dedicated to developing his quarterbacks on the team? He would have to pass a lot of that off to somebody else. So, maybe that argument doesn't hold up. Is Eric up to that task? We all know that Eric should get a head coaching chance at some point. And it's time. It's way past time for Bieniemy to get that opportunity. But, is it going to be in Washington? I don't know. We'll wait and see. He's not my favorite. I think just because, I don't know, his play calling to me has been up and down this year. I think it's been worlds better than Scott Turner, but it's still been very suspect to me. I think he's done a good job with Sam Howell, but I think at times he's put too much on Sam Howell, and I think that he's not willing to make adjustments when he needs to, and his adjustments come several games later instead of in-game adjustments. So I don't know. Jury's still out on Eric Bieniemy. I don't think he's going to be here. So anyway, basically summing up all of this, it's really going to come down to, honestly, who the GM wants. The next general manager comes in and what their philosophy is and what they feel like is going to bring championships to Washington. And certainly we talked about analytics. That coach is going to have to be on board with analytics. So these coaches are going to have to be on board with that as well. So that's really where it's going to come down to eliminating some of these guys. And sometimes the younger guys, they're a little bit more on board with analytics than the older guys. So, maybe that does probably eliminate Bill Belichick. Maybe it eliminates Jim Harbaugh. Who knows? But in the end, folks, I think we're going to get a better head coach. And I think the search is going to be done correctly. And I think the search has already started. I think names have already certainly been gathered. We're just waiting for the season to end. And we're also waiting for, some of these guys to kind of decide that, yes, they want their names thrown into the ring as far as head coaching. You got to think some of these guys are going to be coaching in the playoffs, possibly Super Bowl, so you can't really interview them, for another few weeks. So you're going to have to wait on that. But anyway, folks, let me know in the comments what you think. This is a little bit of a lengthy video, but I think it was an important video to talk about. Our head coaching is coming, folks. Black Monday is just a few days away, and then after that, we can start a coaching search. Take care.